money into a system every month, even though this system already has a problem 250 times larger than the Greek financial crisis. And that's only the richest 20 OECD countries. If you go to the poorer countries, the problem's even worse. So it's a massive problem. And the thing is, if you're going to solve a massive problem like this, there's really only one person on the planet that you can call. Hang on a sec. No, that's not him. No, this guy. So the only guy that's ever solved the problem this massive is the guy we know and love as Satoshi Nakamoto. So last year we started asking ourselves, if Satoshi was going to solve the pensions crisis, how would he do it? And what we looked at is the three major innovations that Satoshi introduced. The first one, number one, is that if you solve the central guarantor problem, you reduce the cost in the system. And in fact, you can reduce the cost by several orders of magnitude. Number two, if you want to guarantee the integrity of the records in the system, you publish all of the transactions on a distributed ledger. And number three is if you want to reduce the risk of someone cheating the system, then rather than trusting humans, you put your trust in machines and you put your trust in math. These are pretty foundational principles. In fact, we were talking last night and we were saying that if we had had these principles in place 12 years ago, Berlin would probably have a very nice new airport by now. So here's where it gets a little bit lighter. Great. Basically what we've built is a new retirement funding system for the world, and I'll explain how it works. The system is a fully community-owned system that anyone on the planet can join, and 100% of what they contribute goes towards creating a lifetime income stream once they reach the age of retirement. All of the payments, all of the assets are pseudonymously recorded on a public blockchain, so that at any point in time, everyone on the planet knows exactly where they stand. In our case, we've chosen to use the Stellar blockchain because Stellar's mission is to bring low-cost financial services to the world, and that's what Tontine Trust is all about. Then the biggest single innovation that we've introduced is this guy up here, the world's first robo-actuary. This guy's job is to manage the risk and always obey the prime directive, which is to manage the level of payouts in the fairest possible way. So now, what happens? If your mother or father or your favorite local bartender chooses to invest a chunk of their life savings with Tontine Trust on our platform, what can they expect? Well, the first thing is that because of the design of our robo-actuary, they can be absolutely assured that the system will always be fully funded. It can never go bankrupt. Secondly, because the costs of our system are an order of magnitude lower than a centralized solution, from day one, the payouts to the members in retirement are going to be higher. And thirdly, because the payouts are allowed to increase over time, it's more likely than not that these payments will stay way ahead of inflation. In fact, if you can see from the numbers on the graph, if your mother or father or whoever it is survives all the way to 95 or 100 years old, they're going to have an extremely comfortable old age. I'm not going to go into details of our roadmap, but what I do want to say is that I think by the end of this year, we will be reintroducing the gold standard of pensions. Effectively, we'll be issuing a Tontine pension, fully backed by physical gold held at the Royal Mint. But our flagship product is the ETF-backed Tontine pension. So this is for the mainstream market, and it invests in a global portfolio of traditional assets using some of the largest and lowest cost index funds on the planet. The one I expect that majority of us in this room will be investing in is the one over on the right-hand side, which is the crypto pension, which will be backed by the world's largest and most liquid cryptocurrencies. So, following the lead of the man that liberated 4 million people 150 years ago, we believe that Satoshi can help us liberate hundreds of millions of people from retirement misery over the coming decades. And this is our contribution to the blockchain movement. So the question I have for you guys here today is, how can Satoshi help you make the world a better place? That's it. Thank you. Happy to answer questions if you've still got time left.
Yes, you have some time left. Are there questions? Yes, there are.
Hello, my name is Nina. Thank you for your presentation. My question is this: under what circumstances do you think your project could fail? Is such a thing even possible?
Thanks, Nina. Nina's asked, under what circumstances do we think that the project could fail? If the governments miraculously found $78 trillion under the mattress and decided that the best use for it would be to actually start handing it over, putting it into safe assets to pay out all the pensioners, then that would be a disaster for us. If the corporations suddenly stopped paying dividends, and instead of paying dividends to shareholders, started actually filling up their pension funds and filling up the gaps that's missing over there, that would be a disaster for us. So I think in either of those circumstances, that would be a problem.
You started with irony and you're ending closing with irony.
Sorry?
You started with an ironic statement and you're closing with an ironic statement.
Sorry.
Another question.
Irish.
Hi, this is Jörg from CECG. Why would children want their parents to invest in a tontine which cannot be passed on to them? That's a question I'm just thinking about.
Yeah, actually it's a question we get asked quite a lot. So the nature of a tontine is that when you put your money into the tontine, it's irrevocable. It all goes into a pool to be shared by everybody else. And if you're someone that passes away after 10 or 15 years, you've probably got your capital back, but anything that's left in the pool stays for the benefit of everybody else. So we often get asked, why would children want their parents investing in a tontine? Because ultimately, while it secures a lifetime income for the parents, it takes away the inheritance. So we've been thinking about this, and what we've realized is that most people that, if you think about it, I'll try and use some round numbers. If you can imagine that your parents have just retired and they've 2 million euros in the bank, and they're thinking, okay, well, we're probably going to live to 90, 95, 100. So they're probably going to spend $1 million in retirement over that time. And traditionally what happens is that they'll put it in the bank, they'll put it in conservative investments, and they'll spend that, and in 40, 45 years' time, they'll bequeath the remaining $1 million to their children. So all that money is sat there, not getting used. The thing about our tontine pensions is that immediately they can come to us and say, okay, well, this is the amount of income we'd like in retirement. This is the sort of profile that we'd like to be getting every month. And we can work out exactly how much it's going to cost for each of them to get that profile of income. So that could be €500,000, it could be €1 million, for example. Immediately they invest that in a tontine pension. They know more or less exactly what their income is going to be for every month for the rest of their life. On that basis, that family can now pass the extra $1 million or whatever it is left over to the next generation to get them started in buying homes, opening a business, or whatever it is that they want to do with the capital. So there's a perception that if you put money into a tontine, that there's nothing left for the kids. Actually, it's the opposite. You put money into a tontine, you don't need to hang on to the money for the next 40 years. You can give it to the kids now.
Thank you very much, Dean. Any more questions for Dean, or shall we go to the next presentation? Thank you once again, Dean.
Thank you.